How to make D&D bosses. What is a boss? A boss in D&D is a monster that is stronger than the average monster, usually at the end of a dungeon. It is meant to test the player's strength or to achieve a purpose. If you're not familiar with D&D, when you hear the word boss, you might think of the final antagonist of the entire campaign. But in the D&D community, we usually call the final antagonist the BBEG, or Big Bad Evil Guy, just to clear up the terms. Different boss types. There are a few different boss types, such as mini bosses, regular bosses, or the final boss, as we discussed earlier. Each has different use cases and are balanced differently. Mini bosses are bosses that aren't as powerful as the regular boss of the entire dungeon. They're basically just regular bosses, but smaller. Regular bosses or standard bosses are meant to test your players and be the last big exciting thing in the dungeon. For example, a mini boss in a bandit camp might be a bandit chef, a bit stronger than the average bandit, but not as strong as the full bandit captain, the actual boss of the dungeon. A final boss, or BBEG, is the big final antagonist of your campaign, the overarching boss that is causing the events your players reacting to, and the main focus of your campaign story. How to create bosses. Now that we've discussed what a boss is and the different types of bosses there are, we'll discuss how to actually make them. First of all, your bosses should match the theme of your campaign. If the world your campaign is set in is grim and marked with war, but peace has finally been achieved, you might have a final boss who threatens to end it all and plunge your world into war once more. Or maybe the war is still happening, and the boss is trying to achieve peace, but at a cost that isn't acceptable to your players. Your final boss should always be in opposition to your players. Tension should always exist. Their goal should not be able to be achieved as well as your players. If they can both achieve their goals, then your final boss isn't a final boss at all. Now to regular bosses. They should always match the theme of their dungeon. A bandit captain should be in a bandit camp, not an ancient crypt. There's no one there. The bandit captain would be out of work. You would be much more likely to find a necromancer in an ancient crypt than a bandit captain. Second, your bosses should always be exciting. Let's say a couple of sessions ago, you went to a bandit camp and you fought a bandit captain for the final boss. You want to put another bandit captain in there, but you don't want it to be the same as the last one. How do you make it interesting? You can do a lot of things to make them more interesting. Have a different weapon, know some different attacks that are special, or maybe even know some simple magic. It doesn't really matter what you do to spice them up, but you should always differentiate your bosses, especially if you have two repeating ones of the same type. You can also just describe them differently. Maybe instead of the big strong bandit captain your players might be expecting, make the bandit captain really weak and not know how to fight. But they're very smart and know how to use their surroundings. One thing I also like to use, just for a small DM hint, is blooding. You might think of something entirely different when I say that, but what I mean by blooding is that when an enemy or boss is deemed to have HP or lower, they would be visibly battered or hurt. It's a good way to show your players that their HP is dropping without breaking immersion. I also recommend for some bosses that you use it to go into a second phase. Maybe your boss is an ogre, and when they get to half health, they would battered. They may have some cuts or bruises, and this makes them extremely angry. So they start doing double damage, or they might have a new slam attack. This makes so the fight changes and is dynamic, not static. This makes your fights much more interesting, and your bosses. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and have a good one.